So because if each time I come to your shop, or each time I come to your office, I know that you're going to give me a pack of kilishi.
Wow.
I might want to keep coming back. So some businesses actually have, loyalty schemes, various kinds of loyalty schemes, so which will keep, it keeps someone, interested. So for example, I think maybe like the most basic one is where they give you maybe a loyalty card, or you get maybe points when you buy up to a certain amount, you get points or something, right? And then you know that these points at the end of the day you are going to get a reward, so it keeps you coming back kind of. So there are various kinds of loyalty schemes that you can look at. So for most businesses, it would be to look at what do you think would apply, to you. What kind of loyalty scheme that do you think would make sense, to people and maybe apply. Yes.
So that also reminds me of one of those things that I usually discuss with entrepreneurs, that when clients come, they sometimes don't even have an understanding of what they need. They may come with a thought of what they want.
Yes.
So let me give you a practical example.
Okay.
So a client comes, says, "Hey, Tayo, I want to register my business." That's what usually happens. But in the real sense, what the clients want is not to register a business, but to operate a profitable business. That's it, in the real sense. So because you registered the business, okay, so what next? And we found that many entrepreneurs don't understand the concept of redefining the needs of their clients, such that they now become profitable at it. So let's say, okay, a client has come for business registration, but you understood that this client actually wants to not just register a business, wants to avoid anything with tax authorities, wants to avoid anything with any other agency that will put them in a mess, wants to run a profitable venture, wants to understand the legal framework. So you then begin to look at all of these things, redefine, and then this just seems to be one example of product creation. What do you think?
So now here's the thing. Yes, I see what you mean, and I totally agree with you. So in selling, okay, so I know that at times when we say selling, right, there's that mix, that confusion between selling and marketing.
Okay.
Because at times it depends on the industry where you are. Some industry will say salesmen, all right. While some people will say marketers, So, but when we talk about selling, all right, we're talking about where there is that exchange of value. So I have something that is of value to me. So which is maybe my money. You have something which is of value. You want to give me wisdom, all right? You want to give me wisdom, you want to give me counsel, for which I'm going to have to pay for it because it's something of value. So there's that exchange. So where that exchange, is taking place, we can say that selling, has taken place. So I don't want to go into differentiation so that people will not be angry, but if you do sales and marketing, you know where sales actually is falling. So essentially, under marketing, we have what we call the 4 P's of marketing. So which marketing is the sum total of everything you do, to make people, be attracted into your brand and make your brand of choice, your brand their choice, when they want to decide on that item, So we have what we call traditionally the 4 P's of marketing. So there's a part of it that is called promotions. Yeah. Okay, so and that is also when we say market, I need to market your product. Most of the time, or market your service. Most of the time, what we're referring to is the promotion part of it.
All right, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to this webinar. And I hope I'm loud and clear. So first and first, I would want to encourage everybody. I see we have a lot of Oyeleke Olumide. It looks like we're campaigning for somebody here this evening. So please, just in case, just check your profile. right? It's going to be important for me to be able to identify your name, and just in case you have a question or you have some comments, it's good for me to know your name. So if by mistake, some error, you see that your name is appearing as Oyeleke Olumide, please, I would want you to change your name. I can see a beauty here, bearing Oyeleke Olumide. I know that's not Olumide. So if you can hear me, just check your profile and adjust your name from Oyeleke Olumide. I see Tosin Isaac is here. I'm able to identify you through your display picture, but you are currently showing as Oyeleke Olumide. So please change your name as we start this webinar. Okay, so once again, welcome everybody. As much as possible, we intend to manage time, and I believe our speakers are here. At least I'm sure of Mr. Seun Fadiora is in the house. But I want to believe that Mr. Jayesh is not one of those bearing Oyeleke Olumide here. Please, just in case you are in, please check your profile and adjust your name so that we will be able to recognize your presence. So this evening, we are going to be talking about immigration laws in the United Kingdom. And why are we inspired to have this conversation? It's not because people are buying into the idea of the Japa syndrome, but definitely because it's an opportunity moment where the globe has become smaller and we need to start thinking global. We need to start seeking for opportunities across the globe. I may go to mention that very soon, and the time is coming very soon, when Nigerian entrepreneurs will be everywhere across the globe. The same way we have Nigerian musicians everywhere, we would have Nigerian entrepreneurs everywhere across the globe. And I make bold to make that statement. It's something I know that is soon to happen, but we have to have the right mindset towards it. And in this webinar, we've decided to concentrate on the United Kingdom and what is happening there. So we're going to be focusing on three key areas in today's conversation. We're going to be looking at the different visa routes for migrants, for those that are interested in having some presence in the United Kingdom, whether it's physical, whether it's a business presence, whatever the reason. So we're going to be considering the different visa routes for migrants. And then we are also going to be considering the changing policies and opportunities in the United Kingdom. If you've been following the stories around that economy, you'd find that we have a change in government. And at the moment, I would want to say that we really do not have stability as well currently, because recently the Prime Minister also resigned on that. I'm not sure that was up to a month of stay in the office. So yes, a number of you are also concerned about the economy and whether there is a form of instability that you need to be aware of. So Mr. Jayesh, just in case you are in, I need to be sure that you are around. So you might be showing us Oyeleke Olumide. Oh, great. I can see that you just joined us. All right. So these are things that we're going to be considering. And then the third thing we want to look at this evening is what you should know about settling down in the United Kingdom. And we have with us very, very solid people that bring on board the hands-on experience and the field experience of all of these things that we're going to be talking about. So I reckon that sometimes we have people that are unable to relate with the legal. So it's also important that we have a blend of the conversation by bringing somebody as well that can share the field experience so that we can have a robust conversation this evening. So we have two speakers here today. We have a lawyer that is an immigration expert and is going to be guiding us on the legal part of immigration in the United Kingdom. And of course, we have Seun Fadiora, who is also going to be guiding us on life in the United Kingdom. So once again, I welcome our speakers. I'm going to do a very short introduction. So they will be taking turns to guide us. We'll have the first session where we get to talk about the changing policies and opportunities in the United Kingdom. So I'll just read out the profile of Mr. Jayesh Jetua. So first to mention, just to make it as brief as possible because of our time. So he's an immigration expert of many years. We've been great friends together. And he's a friend of Nigeria. So you should join us to welcome him to Nigeria soon enough. So we're inviting you to come over to Nigeria, okay? But
Definitely.
A great colleague in the United Kingdom doing great stuffs. He advises top multinationals across the globe, Asia, Europe, and of course, Africa. So we are privileged to have him here with us today. And so I'm going to leave the floor for you for the next 30 minutes to guide us on the changing policies and the opportunities of the United Kingdom. Once again, welcome, Mr. Jayesh.
Thank you, Mr. Ogunyemi. Thank you for sort of inviting me, and good to see you all here today. And nice to see Mr. Fadio. So I hope you're doing well too. So yeah, I think it'll be good to sort of go over sort of some of the key changes to the immigration. Hi, Mr. Fadio. And yeah, there's been some really interesting changes in terms of immigration to the UK. And I think the UK government I think it's best to start from a legislative position. So the UK government are now starting to welcome more individuals from all over the world and trying to open up immigration in the UK. Their main aim is actually quite self-centered. There's a lack of assistance in areas from healthcare all the way up to innovative businesses and everything in between. And it creates an opportunity for everyone on this call and people from all over the world to consider what options they have to move over to the UK. And I guess my next 30 minutes of just speaking to you would be about some of those key changes, and obviously I'll be happy to answer any questions after that. I think the best way to maybe approach it is to look at the options that I think are sort of the most attractive for people looking to move from abroad. And I think one of the most sort of attractive options is definitely the innovator and startup visas. Interestingly, there are whispers and rumors that the innovator visa will be changed soon, and they will change these requirements to make them slightly better. But for anyone who doesn't know what the innovator or startup visa is, it's an option for you to set up a new business in the UK, which is scalable, viable, and it's obviously innovative in terms of what it does. So what the Home Office and the UK government are looking for from you is an idea that you would like to introduce in the UK that would disrupt the market that other competitors would be operating in. The classic example is always, we've all had food delivery businesses that we've lived with for our whole lives, and then Uber turned up and changed the way that we that we work with delivery or taxis or whatever else. And it's this innovation or this technology or information that you should be looking for to try to incorporate into your business, so that you could obviously leverage this visa and move over to the UK. So if that's sort of what you're looking at, and if you're already in business, it's quite common for those individuals to have options available to them and routes available to them to consider moving over to the UK. One of the main sort of in terms of the legalities of an innovator, you have to have the £50,000 in the UK available to you to invest into your business. Again, there are talks that this amount will be reduced or removed, or it will be able to fluctuate according to your business idea. And what we would do is obviously help you to explain this in the business plan. Well, that's one of the key financial requirements. Apart from this, it's quite flexible in terms of the idea and in terms of your actual business, what you would like to do. So we would obviously be able to advise you if that ever became sort of the matter. But one of the things that I've noticed from all of my clients based in either Nigeria or just Africa generally is that they have very ingenious ideas to problems that we face in the UK, and their entrepreneurialism has been something that's sort of set them apart in terms of ideas, and some of them are already incorporating ideas either in their existing business inside of Nigeria, or have found a gap in the market, and want to consider the UK as a home for their new business. So yeah, I'd be happy to answer any sort of questions if they come through in the meantime on that. I think a lot of people maybe on this call may already have an existing business, but I think the key is to look at if you do have a business in Nigeria, what you could do to expand that business to the UK. There was something called the sole representative visa, and this has been overtaken by sort of a new route with regards to an expansion worker or scale up visa. So there's a couple of other options available now, and those are quite stringent in what they allow you to do. And I would probably advise that you sort of take it on a case-by-case basis. In terms of it, I think they've taken the DNA of a sole representative visa, and they've almost diminished parts of the visa where it was being abused, just generally, and they've now sort of built in mechanics to make it a bit better for you. But what it does mean is that if you are a senior member of staff in a successful business inside of Nigeria, you could post yourself in the UK to expand that business to the United Kingdom and scale it thereafter. It's actually proven to be quite a popular route for us as a law firm because it's given the ability to move into the UK market, even though that things like Brexit, which you may have been following, have occurred. The UK still seems to be quite attractive in regards to expanding into Europe and as a gateway to Europe. And to conduct European business. So recently I had a client from India who owns a shipping company, and they look after all sorts of haulage-based shipping ships and their staff and so on. And what they wanted to do is move out of that side of the world from an oceanic perspective and move into the western side of transportation. And they noticed that post-Brexit there are issues with haulage. So I think what I always advise is to have a think about what your current business or what your business idea has and what its potential to expand into the UK would be. So if there isn't the ability to sort of say, okay, I have something great, or I work for a great company, but I would like to now take it to the next stage and sort of expand into Europe, those options would be very much favoured. In terms of whether you are a business owner or not, I think that's normally where you sort of start. If you are a business owner or entrepreneurial, then always consider innovative options. And if you're highly skilled, there is sort of a couple of other options based on the individual, which again, a lot of tech houses like HP and so on sit inside of Nigeria as supports, and a lot of some of the senior tech individuals work outside of those posts, and as a result, Nigerian nationals have become extremely sort of advanced in their capabilities, and this comes into play with the global talent visa, which is actually based on you as an individual. So you could be working for a company which is extremely successful, but you could be the pioneer behind that company, and that could be an option as to why you may be able to seek a global talent visa. So all of the visas I've mentioned so far all have different lengths to settle and gain permanent residency in the UK. The Innovators, a 3-year route, is the fastest way that you can settle. The Global Talent's also potentially a 3-year, but most of the time it's a 5-year route. the expansion and so on are slightly longer, just depending on what options you have on the table. But all of these routes have one thing in common, that they all have a route to settlement, which is something like a student visa just does not have. So you can't settle in the UK based off of a student visa, but you can gain exposure and live in the UK based on something like a student visa. So that's something to bear in mind, and always bearing in mind whether that's an option for you. Would it be something that you would be happy to consider to look at the stepping stones of a student visa, and then consider your options in the future? But going back to the point of looking at whether you own a business or whether you work for a company, if you are quite happy and quite successful, and that you may not meet the requirements of something like the global talent visa, considering work options in the UK is actually quite a favourable option. A work permit, what we call in the UK a skilled worker, is quite a protective route. It's a 5-year route to settle in the UK. And if you are for example, you work in HR, or you're in technology, or whatever role that you conduct abroad, it's quite likely there's a mirrored image in the UK where you could work for one of these companies. And the key is to look at applying for these jobs and sort of explaining, looking at whether that company has a sponsorship license to sponsor you. A common one is care homes. At the moment, there's a huge demand for carers, and it's a very relatively high paying role versus what you may need. So I'm sure that will be mentioned, or may have already been mentioned so far, but it's not limited to just that role. It could be, I worked with individuals who were moving someone over who was a chef from Japan and specialized in sushi, or all the way to someone who was actually a mechanic who designed who's responsible for 3D graphic modeling, and was only one of 2 people in the world that could work this program. So it really varies, and then there's everything in between, assistants and financiers and heads of HR and all sorts. So really, what the government in the UK, their aim is to look at is, where are the jobs lacking, and can we inject those roles from abroad? The problems that you may face is that the companies may really like you, and they may think that you're the right person, but they won't have a sponsorship license. And it's normally at that point where you say, well, trying to help them to understand that yes, you are the right person, how that process would go, because if they know that it's as easy as it is, they're quite likely to want to have you as potential members of staff. So and in terms of how you go about even applying for these jobs, people look at things like LinkedIn or other job search websites, and actually have been quite lucky. And if a company does have a license, they simply need to apply for your visa. So it's actually quite a good route. So taking it from the work permit, there is the student visa, which it really varies. If you're looking to enhance your education and then move into something like a work permit or innovative visa, it is a great option that you could consider, and something that I think it would benefit you in terms of your employability if you are looking at the work routes, because you would have UK exposure, you'd be quite aware of the way that the country works and so on, and it's a good taster, all the way down to a visit visa. I mean, a lot of our clients are quite happy to come and visit the UK first. They want to see whether they could stomach the UK climate when it's cold in the winter, after living in sunny Nigeria. Or they're quite happy to just see whether the lifestyle change is something that they're happy to consider, where they may want to live, or they may have meetings for business in the UK. And I'd never really deter anyone from considering a visit visa to the UK, just to get that 6 months exposure, have those meetings and explore your market if you're looking at considering an innovative visa or anything of that type. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions. I think that's my final sort of 5 minutes. And I think you should all be aware that you may have heard things from other people, but unless it's coming from myself, maybe Mr. Fadiura or Mr. Ogunyemi, then in terms of how it actually goes in terms of visas. Just be careful of what you may have heard, because other people's experience and their specific circumstances could be very different to yours. You may have a fantastic business idea. You may have a fantastic opportunity to study. So it's really about whether you, what's good for you. And our job as lawyers is to say, well, you fit into this category, and you'll be fine on this route. And what's right for you might not be right for someone else. So hopefully that outlines sort of the key changes. I don't see the UK government making any more drastic changes apart from some changes to the innovator visa. And in my opinion, I think obviously that climatically, you may have heard that the UK is in some form of a recession, but it's one like we've never really seen. There's employment going up and people are basically spending too much money. So interest rates are rising, but employability is not really lacked. And in terms of demand for jobs and for growth economically in the UK, that remains as one of the key sort of KPIs for international sort of injection of funds. So do be aware of that. But yeah, happy to answer any questions, and thank you for listening in.
All right, thank you, Mr. Jayesh. Very, very great one there. Always good to listen to you guide on the immigration rules in the United Kingdom. But just before we go to our next speaker, so there's something that I thought let me share on behalf of Nigerians that actually listen to you. So we read a lot of news, and I understand that many of these things are also the media frame people, and many of these things could be blown out. So I just want to have your thoughts around the fact that, recently there's been news around the possibility of changing the immigration rules, especially as it relates to dependents of people that got visa. What do you have to say to that?
I think in the last, I would say 45 days, we've had 2 new members of Parliament, and obviously in terms of prime ministers who are normally in term for 4 years, and we've had 2 in the last 45 days. So I think there's been this sense of having to try to stamp your stamp to say that I'm coming in to do A, B, and C. And what happened with regards to that dependent option, I've heard has been shelved as an option, particularly for students. So dependents of students won't face any negative aspects of, and my legal opinion is that it breaches Article 8 of the Human Rights Act, which is your right to private and family life. So we always plead this in all sorts of legislation. If you are traveling to another country, you have the right to be with your family, in our opinions. And I think most human rights lawyers and immigration specialists, and even any person who has sort of any sense of sort of intellect would know that if you were looking to move country, you wouldn't want to do that if your child and wife or husband couldn't be with you. So it's a really good question, but I think there'll be a lot of upheaval if that was to be the case. Also, people don't realize that dependents can work. They don't, on a lot of visa categories. They're almost more free than the main applicant. And this economically does help, employment in the UK and income for economic growth. So to cut that by 50%, essentially, at a time like this is probably not very meritorious to the government. So I think there'll be quite a backlash in any sort of committee. So for now, I think you have nothing to worry about.
Okay, thank you once again. That's quite comforting. And I do hope that it's comforting to as many colleagues and Nigerians that are on the call with us. Okay, so just in case you have questions, please remember to use the chat box. Drop your questions. We still have Mr. Jayesh with us. Thank you once again, Mr. Jayesh, for...
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
for taking this session. So remember, you still are going to be joining us for a joint session where we are going to be dissecting the different visa routes for the United Kingdom. So, but just before we get into that, I want us quickly touch base with Mr. Seun Fadiora. So we have Mr. Seun Fadiora here with us as well. And so, Mr. Fadiora, it's a privilege to have you here with us. I know that you are a serial entrepreneur. You know, I call you something. I call you my coachee. So, you know, it's a privilege to have you on this call with us. Seun Fadiora has held a whole lot of many Nigerians and Africans, held them by the hands to settle down in the United Kingdom. And yeah, he's the brain behind the United Kingdom Relocation Free Information Community, a community that houses 1,000+ people that are seeking information on what to do and how to get into the United Kingdom. Okay, so we are privileged to have you here with us, and Mr. Fadiora is going to be discussing with us in the next 30 minutes what you should know about settling down in the United Kingdom. So once again, we welcome you, Mr. Fadiora, and you have the floor. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, everybody. I don't know if you can all hear me. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Beautiful. I just wanted to be sure. My name is Oluwaseun Fadiora. Jayesh is the lawyer that worked on my case for me to get to the UK. So we're family.
Exactly.
It's nice to have everybody here. If you all just go to the chat section in the group, I've posted something in there. Have we all seen it?
Yes.
Yes, we have.
Awesome. So the reason why I posted that in there is because that's what I want to basically try and run through over the next 30 minutes. I think that's the time I've been allocated. So that means I should be done by 6 o'clock. Okay, so I've put that there, you know, because a lot of people, I'm not going to spend too much time on the type of visa. I'm in the UK on the innovator visa. I've been here this month, makes it 18 months that my visa was issued. So I'm basically halfway through my innovator visa journey. It's been interesting, it's been challenging. There's been a lot of gbasgbos, like we say in Nigeria. People want to know. Somebody asked me a question that, so has it made sense so far for you to leave Nigeria? Because I was an entrepreneur in Nigeria and everybody felt, this guy, you cannot leave and all that. And then all of a sudden, I've left. So my answer to the person is 1,000,000% better. Not to make comparisons, but that's for another day. But I'll just run you through the system, you know, what you need to do after you've gotten your visa. It's important that you decide on which particular type of visa you want to get from the beginning. If you ask me, I'm naturally biased towards visa for students because I think it's just bloody pure waste of time. I think you should either be doing a work visa or any of the other ones. Global mobility visa is good, innovator visa is good, startup visa is good. You can talk to Jayesh for all those things. He'll help you guys. He'll bill you, but he'll help you guys. You know, it's important. And I think that's also part of the difference between the Nigerian system and the UK system. In the UK, everything is DIY, do it yourself. If you don't want to do it yourself, you pay. A typical example, a plumber came to my house and his call-out charge was £100 just to come to my house to see what the problem was. I'm thinking in Nigeria, I'll probably give the plumber 3,000 naira, which is probably maybe about £10. Do you get? So, but here you just pay for everything. So please, you can either find out all these things yourself or, you know, you pay for it. The visa type, talk to Jayesh about it. For the flights, again, that's another thing you want to consider. Flights are becoming crazy these days. The prices are absolutely ridiculous if you think about it. And it has nothing to do with the flight itself, but the FX situation in Nigeria and some of the agreements the Nigerian government has with the flight companies, the airlines and all those things. What I would suggest is the minute you start a process, if you have a fair idea of when that process will conclude, you should buy your tickets. Please make sure the tickets you buy are refundable tickets, not non-refundables. If you buy non-refundables, you are in soup. You will not be able to change dates. You'll not be able to change certain parameters. So please, whatever you do, buy a ticket that is a bit flexible. In the long run, it will cost you less than waiting until... So I'll tell you the story of my sister. My sister picked up her visa on Tuesday, and she had to land in the UK on Thursday, which means she had to fly on Wednesday. The only ticket that was available for her to fly to the UK was a business class ticket. It cost her about 2 million naira because she had to rush. If she had gotten a ticket before then, to change would have been a bit cheaper. But my point is, it cost her a whole lot for her to get on that flight, which, if she didn't get on the flight, she would have lost out on the student visa she came with. So book your flight as soon as you can. Once you are sure, that this process is going this way, just book it. So students will be traveling in January. Why don't you just book your ticket against December now? It will be cheaper. The next thing is housing. Housing currently in the UK is WAR, war. There is such a crazy demand for accommodation in the UK you cannot imagine. A friend of mine in Manchester said one of his guys who came in with his family moved into an apartment, and coincidentally, the guy who just moved out came back to pick up something in the house. They got talking, and the guy told them he paid £650 until the day before they moved in. Guess how much they are paying? £950. So a lot of landlords look, what I've realized is human beings are human beings, whether they're in Nigeria or they're in the UK. A lot of landlords are not renewing tenancy for old, tenants, because they know the new guys coming in, they can double the price. Crazy guys. I kid you not. If you want to come, my advice based on housing is come alone first. Men are come alone first. Who is that? Can you mute yourself, please? Come alone first. If you come alone first, you can stay in a one-room shared apartment like I did when I first moved in. Look around, you'll be able to settle down, get your accommodation sorted. Trust me, you want to come alone first. You don't want to come to the UK, husband, wife, 5 children. Nigerians, we like to give birth a lot. You will suffer. 2, it's easier for people to assist you when you are alone. For example, if somebody calls me up now and says, "Oh, Sean, please, can I stay in your house for 2 weeks?" It's easier for me to say, "Oh, if it's just you, only you, come on. You can stay in my house for a week or 2." If you are a family, hell no, I'm not going to allow you to come to my house. There's even no space. People don't even do that in the UK, because it's tricky getting someone out of your house after they've moved in. So don't be angry when people don't allow you to come stay with them, especially if you're coming with your family. It's crazy. One of the things you will find out, for example, is if you move into my house, I don't put on my central heating system because I'm used to the weather. I'm not wearing anything under this shirt. I'm used to the weather. If I'm cold, I'll probably put on a duvet, but the minute you have guests around coming from Nigeria, "Oh, it's cold, it's cold, it's cold," you have to turn on the central heating. Bills are crazy. I'm telling you guys, bills are absolutely crazy. I didn't put bills there, but bills are absolutely crazy. The cost of heating your house is ridiculous now. I think it's crazy, even though government has given us money anyway. Jayesh, please, that reminds me. I need to find out the money that government is giving us, the £400. Does it qualify as public funds for the purposes of visas, so that they don't give me issues at the end, but we'll discuss that later. My point is, you need to be very, very sure you sort out accommodation when you come in. Everything you are doing in the UK hangs on your accommodation. Absolutely everything. The minute you step into a house in the UK, you get your council taxes. With your council tax bill, you can do your banking. With your council tax bill, you can actually do schooling, because everything is linked to that address you have. Your full name, spelling, date of birth, and your address is all you need in the UK. If they call up your name and they put your date of birth, they can see the whole of your record, everything you've done, any criminal record, your DBS checks, all those things are linked to your address. So housing is very, very important. Health registration, pretty easy, pretty straightforward. If you want to do health registration, once you've gotten an apartment and you have an address, oh, I didn't include national insurance. I missed out certain things. Once you've gotten your address, you can register with a GP. How do you register with a GP? There's something I call IFA Google. Google has everything you need in the UK. I'm not joking. You don't need to know anybody. You don't need to talk to anybody. Just go on bloody Google and type GP near me. Once you type GP near me on Google, you'll see different GP practices near you. Pick up your phone, call any one of them. I would like to register. The only thing they would ask you for is proof of residence. Once you have that proof of residence, which is typically a rental agreement, or if you have any communication with a government agency, whether your council tax bill, your communication with DWP or any of those organizations and stuff like that. Once you have that, they just get your details. You can see a doctor tomorrow. Well, in about a week, you get your NHS number. That's for registration. If you want to go to school, it's exactly the same thing. You just go online. The local council, in my own area, the local council is under AmShare. So just go to the AmShare website, apply for a place for school, put your child's name, put your child's date of birth, look at the schools around you. Again, schools near me on Google. It will show you all the schools within a particular radius. If you are checking for schools, there's something called Ofsted report. Sorry, I'm trying to rush. There's something called Ofsted report. With the Ofsted report, you can see the ranking of schools. Schools in the UK are grouped from outstanding, good, requires improvement, and not suitable or something like that. You don't want your child in requires improvement. In some cases, you might be unfortunate that that's the only schools around your area. Again, you want to choose where you would live with sense. You don't just get into the UK and say, for example, I didn't want to stay in a black community. I didn't want it. A lot of people come down to the UK and they all just go, boom, Kent. That's the first point of call for a lot of black people. I'm like, come on, guys. Yes, I know that's where a lot of black people are and all that, but the world has changed from just education. The world is now, the quality of your network, if you know what I mean. The quality of your network, the person that went to school with Rishi Sunak or the person that went to school with Boris Johnson, if you're black, you probably will be able to get contracts and get a lot of things done than if you just sit down in Kent and all of you are just black and all of you are just sitting down there and you don't make the right connection. So I decided I wanted a white community. On my street, we're probably the only black family there. People think of racism. Trust me, there's no public racism in the UK. If you are publicly racist, people will deal with you. Do you understand? So ignore all those racist talk, ignore all those rubbish that people say. It's not so bad. I mean, it's not bad. That I've not experienced racism. I think the best racism I'll say I've experienced was a day I tried to sit down in the mall and there was a white woman beside me and I wanted to sit down. I was dead tired and I wanted to sit down and she stood up from the seat, went to go and stand somewhere. I'm like, now your papa get problem. I sat down comfortably. What's my business? I'm not looking at you like my people who say in Nigeria, what you uche kind of a thing, But my point is, it's easy to get schooling sorted as well. All you have to do is go online. Banking. I've never seen banking so seamless. You sit down in your house. Look, if you have a UK driver's license, that thing is magic. UK driver's license, put the picture anywhere, any banking app, even on Google, on Apple. I mean, I'm doing Apple developer stuff. It's automatic. It's crazy. Once you have your UK driver's license, even if it's provisional, well, I just passed my test after failing it twice anyway. So even if it is provisional, you can just open a bank account from the comfort of your mobile phone. You don't have to go anywhere. I mean, I opened a Monzo. They sent the card to the address. The card came out. I just tapped the back of my phone and my account was activated. It's awesome. Guys, absolutely awesome. Forget whatever you know in Nigeria. This place is, quite cool. Credit. Let me say this to everybody here. The biggest mistake you can make coming into the UK is to run away from credit. In Nigeria, you want to buy stuff, you always buy it for cash. In the UK, nobody buys stuff for cash. Even when you have the cash, you don't want to spend that money all at once. Do you understand? So, how do you build your credit? You need to go get a credit card as quickly as you can. Once you have a credit card, please use your credit card and make sure you pay up your credit. With your credit score, and you need to get your credit score up. With your credit score, it's easy for you to access funding. If you're thinking of expansion, you want to get loans for your business. So let me give you an example of the difference. In Nigeria, if you want to loan money from a bank, what the bank will ask you for is a collateral. In the UK, nobody's going to ask you for a collateral. Instead, they're going to ask you for your credit score. And they don't ask you. All they would ask you for is, like I said, your first name, your last name, your date of birth. They will find out every single thing about you. Now, with your credit score, if you are able to work on your credit score and you get a good credit score, it makes your life easy when it comes to getting credit. They'll probably first give you £200, use it, pay back, use it, pay back. After a while, they will take you to maybe 800. One of my friends showed me his credit card balance. He's a Lloyd's Platinum card holder. He had £20,000 credit. I'm like, what? You know, my point is, that guy can pay. It's just a card, £20,000 multiplied by 800. Guys, that's 16 million. My friend is just carrying all around on a whim. So please, you need to work on your credit. Another thing you want to do, which also helps with your credit, is get on the electoral register. Guys, that blew my mind. I got into the UK, I got an apartment, and immediately I could vote. I mean, I could vote as a bloody... Guys, it's mind-blowing. I'm not joking. I get excited when I speak about these things. In Nigeria, for you to vote is a problem. Here in the UK, I'm not even a citizen yet, and I'm voting. I'm hoping for general elections because, hey, I get to vote for anybody that I like, if you know what I mean. But you can get on the electoral register by simply, again, IFA, Google. Just go online. All these things I'm saying to you, you can check even from Nigeria. Get on the electoral register in the UK. The reason why I posted this list for you guys, I don't know if the host can help me include DBS check, driver's license, and national insurance number. I didn't include those three things, before now. Business registration. Business registration is so awesome. In Nigeria, I'll be looking for a Itayo. Can you help me register a business? A Itayo will bill me maybe 100,000 naira just to register a bloody business for me. In the UK, it's done in 15 minutes for just £13. Come on. Itayo, you're out of business. Sorry about that. Another issue you need to consider is taxes. They do not joke with taxes in the UK. Trust me. My account in the UK has been blocked at least 4 times. Different banks, because I was, helping people do transactions. They just blocked my account. The minute they blocked my account, Oga, why did you block my account? Tell us what you are doing. How are you seeing all this money that is passing through your account? I first laughed. I laughed hysterically that really nobody has neared my account before in Nigeria. And in the UK, I've been blocked. I've been blocked on Monzo. I've been blocked on Starling. I've been blocked on Revolut. It's crazy. And I had to explain, this is what I do. This is why I have so much money with me and stuff like that. But the minute, in fact, they even blocked my company account. That was the one that shocked me the most. My company account, I'm like, hey, I'm a company. They blocked it. What do you do? Show us a sample of your invoice. Show us a sample of your contract. Of course, I had all those documents. I showed them and I was able to get it sorted. So they don't play with taxes in the UK. Please, please, and please. And you don't even have to pay any taxes until, for VAT registration, until you've already gotten to £85,000. So until you get to £85,000, you can be flexing and nobody will near you. But I quickly passed £85,000 with the way people were sending money to me and stuff like that. Food and culture. Please, please, and please, you'll be doing a lot of potatoes. You'll be doing a lot of vegetables. You'll be doing a lot of... So in Nigeria, every vegetable, we boil it, But over here, they eat the vegetables raw. The first time I saw my friend eating baby spinach, I was like, what? Baby spinach is basically gbure. And I saw my friend just eating bure like that raw. I'm like, what? Then my friend told me I should try olives. I'm like, who's going to eat olives? I'm like, what is that? The only time I've seen olives, of course, is in movies when they're drinking martini, vodka martini, James Bond, and then you see them eating. I'm like, but guess what, guys? I love olives right now. You're coming into the UK, guys. Please, please, and please try to integrate into the culture that you're coming into. It's extremely important. I know people who are scared of talking to white guys. I'm like, are you silly? Just bloody open your mouth and ask the questions. And they'll say, oh, I've got a funny accent. Everybody has an accent. There's a friend of mine whose kids were schooling in the UK. They then relocated to Canada. Interesting story. When they got to Canada, the first time they started attending school, all their classmates came around and said, come, guys. Come and listen to Peppa Pig. I don't know if you guys know Peppa Pig. If you have kids, you probably know Peppa Pig. Peppa Pig is a British cartoon. And the people in Canada were so excited that Peppa Pig, because they were talking British. Peppa Pig is British. Do you get? And in Canada, they were so excited. Like, Peppa Pig is here, My point is everybody bloody has an accent. I lived in Cardiff. The accent in Cardiff is different. They don't even speak English in Cardiff. Can you imagine? In Wales, if you go to Wales, you see two different signs everywhere you go to. In Wales, bus stop means Safle Nesaf. That's what it means. You just hear Safle Nesaf, that's bus stop. I'm like, what the heck? It's not even English. So everybody has an accent. You have to be confident in yourself. You need to understand the culture. And they love beer in this UK. You go to your average pub, there's always one drink or the look, get immersed into the culture. When you come in here, don't just sit down and sit back and say, oh, I'm not in the UK, blah, blah, blah. Get involved with the culture. Religion, you'll be shocked. Plenty churches, plenty mosques, synagogues, Buddhism, Hinduism, whatever it is you want to do. I purposely didn't want to attend a Nigerian church because I'm like, I've left Nigeria now. I don't want all this Nigerianness back in my head and all that. I attended Redeemed in Cardiff. After a while, I lost interest, personal reasons, which I don't want to share here. But I stopped attending the Redeemed. Currently, I attend a church in Kerrit called Kerrit Church, where we stay in Farnborough. That's another problem. Pronunciation. Farnborough is called Farnborough, but it's spelled Farnborough. The first time they called it Farnborough, I'm like, what's that? I think the one that shocked me the most of all pronunciation is Sodok. When I heard the word Sodok, I was expecting to see Suddolk. Trust me, you don't want to know the spelling. Go and find out. I was shocked. How can you call this Sodok? It was crazy. You need to understand and get integrated, and most importantly, helping others. I put helping others there deliberately because one of the things I've learned living in the UK is that people sometimes don't want to help. And the reluctance with helping is as a result of past experiences. So when I was living in Cardiff, like I told you guys, I was staying in a one-bed shared apartment. I had to help a couple. I didn't even know they were a couple. Please mute yourself. I had to help a couple. What happened was somebody introduced me to a guy and said, oh, this my guy is coming to Cardiff. He needs a place to stay. I said, oh, no problem. He's looking for accommodation. I said, yeah, I can give him accommodation for about a week or two. And then when the guy eventually calls me, it happens it was the guy and his wife. I'd already told my landlord that, oh, one of my guys is coming. He's going to be around for about a week or two while he sorts out his accommodation. Again, some Nigerians would not inform their landlord. Trust me, it's completely different over here. Let me tell you how different it is. Okay, I think I have more time for this short story. The house where I stay currently, the minute I moved in, they told me that after 60 days, they were going to come and inspect the house. 60 days, they came to my house. I had to open the door. They went into every single bloody room just to be sure that the number of people stated on the tenancy agreement are the number of people that are actually living in here. Guess what? 2 days ago, I saw another letter saying that I'm due for another inspection. They inspect. In Nigeria, it's written there, Itayo can confirm, every tenancy agreement has that. Nobody does it. Here, they do it. So I'd already, of course, told my landlord. My landlord said no problem. And then I housed these guys. To house these guys, I had only one double bed. And this is me, husband, wife. How do we sleep? Of course, I had to vacate my bed for them and all that. It was pretty uncomfortable. We were supposed to stay for a week to sort out accommodation. They ended up staying for a month. It was not their fault. In all honesty, they were, remember what I said about housing at the beginning? They were actively looking for accommodation. I even helped them to go do some inspection. You know, UK, you can't just get a house. That's another shocking thing I found. If you tell a landlord, I'll pay you 12 months rent up front, some landlord will tell you no. I mean, in the UK, you want to open a bank account. I told HSBC that I would do £100,000 turnover in a year. They said, we're sorry, we can't do business with you. I'm like, are you guys mad? Later on, I found out I should have just said £30,000 because the culture is just different. Do you understand? In Nigeria, when you say you want to open an account, banks, everybody, marketers, a friend threatened the bank. He said, I'm not going to do business with you. They said, you are free to go. I'm like, it's a completely different ball game. To the story of helping others, after my experience with those guys, I didn't say I would not help people, but it would be a bit difficult right now for me to help people. And the reason is this. I have seen that it's not their fault, but it was inconveniencing to me, you know, by the end of the day. Will I help people? Like I said, it's easier to help one person than to help 2, 3, 4, family of 10, the way we are in Nigeria. So you also want to help people because here's what I've realized. The more people you help, the more help you get. And that's just the way life is. And I've seen it happen to me severally. I mean, after I helped those people, personal experience, I found my accommodation in... So when I moved out of Cardiff, I moved down south and all that. I was looking for accommodation and I found a house and moved in about 2 weeks. In fact, the house I found, the landlord called back to say, okay, I'll give you the property in less than an hour. I dare say I didn't want to say, maybe like 15, 20 minutes. I got the decision from the landlord, you know, and he had nothing to do. The guy knew I was black. And that's why I keep telling you guys, there's no racism in that sense. Look, racism is economic. If you have money, nobody will talk to you anyhow and be racist to you in that sense. That's the truth. If I own Chelsea Football Club today, you think anybody will come? They will learn how to pronounce my name. Didn't they learn how to pronounce the name of the owner of Leicester City? Shinrad, something. You learn it. I mean, Indian names are difficult to learn, but you learn it. What the heck? Because they have economic power. And that's what I expect blacks to do. That's why I purposely put the fact that we should help each other there. So let me just stop there. If there are any more specific questions, I did it with 2 minutes to spare, which is a record for me, guys.
Yeah, I must say that that's a record actually, because you're a great speaker, and I love it when I have the opportunity to listen to you. Wow, it's been a very, very great one. Yeah, Kay is clapping here. Come on, guys. Let's say thank you to our speakers. Just get to the comment box. Just say thank you. We have Mr. Jayesh. We have Mr. Seun Fadiora. So the last part of today's conversation. So it's going to be more like engaging the two speakers. And I believe that this is really the key aspect that many of you would love to learn 1 or 2 things about. The realistic visa options or the realistic migration options for Nigerians. Now, it's good we have 2 people, somebody that is able to relate from the economic perspective, and then somebody that is able to then apply the laws of the UK to the reality of the fact that, yes, you are coming from this economy. For instance, I know Mr. Jayesh had mentioned that you needed proof of fund in the UK account of 50,000. And so a typical Nigerian will wonder, where do I get that much? And perhaps this is why we have more people going through some routes that eventually doesn't get them what they want. So that's why we are having this conversation. So remember, you can still drop your questions in the comment box, and I'm going to be on the lookout for those questions. Okay, so let's come to this. Mr. Jayesh, I know you had already summarized earlier about the different visa routes for Nigerians seeking to have a presence in the United Kingdom, but I don't know if you can also just come back to it in the light of the reality of what it seems to be. We haven't gotten any question yet, of course, but I hope that our listeners would send in their questions. But my worry is this: the fact that there is inflation, the value of the naira compared to the value of the pounds, it is really going up every day, and people are quite worried about the cost of having to migrate from Nigeria to the United Kingdom. So in the light of all of these things, I want us to be as practical as possible. What realistic visa options do you think Nigerians can explore in coming to the United Kingdom?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think the inflation point that you mentioned is something that we are all quite concerned about. The projections are that there will be some inflation. I don't think anyone from Nigeria has been sort of scared of inflation. They've been amongst it for so long, and they know how it works, what the mechanics of it are. But it should get back under control, and they say in the next 12 months. But I think you have to be more financially fluid and economically capable of sustaining that potential interest when you move to the UK. So that could be, if you're on a student visa, you can work up to 20 hours a week in term time, unlimited time outside of term time, and that could economically allow you to, potentially make more money than relying on savings, for example. So I think being a bit entrepreneurial, even on something like a student visa, might give you that flexibility. If you're working on a work permit, so if you're here as a healthcare worker, if you're here as a whatever job you're here to post it as, you can carry out supernumerary work, which means you can do additional work outside of your 9 to 5 or general employment, as long as it's in the same category. So if you're here as a healthcare worker, technically you can work in another role as a healthcare worker. If you're here as a dentist, you can be here doing, as long as you're doing something else in that role. But if you're here as a media specialist, for example, you could have your own, there's nothing really stopping you from doing 20 hours in your own time. So it's a bit of an area that I always say, speak to me about, but an additional 20 hours at an average rate of about 10 to 15 pounds an hour should push you over that this hurdle of inflation. I get what you mean from before you leave from Nigeria. I think Mr. Fadura would probably be better to advise on that. But I think personally, and I understand from my clients who are coming in from Nigeria, that when we quote fees in the UK, that they're astonished because of the exchange rate. And I don't know whether it's common, but a lot of our clients have been holding their money in dollars to protect themselves from sort of inflation. And the pound is weak against things like the dollar, so it may be beneficial to you. But yeah, I'm not sure, Mr. Fadura, if you've had a lot of this probably comes your way before it comes to me anyway. So you have to deal with this issue.
So maybe I just add something before Mr. Fadura comes in. I know your story to a large extent, and you may be able to also help us from that angle. Proof of fund is always the first problem that a typical Nigerian face, but you can blend that together with your contribution to the question that is being.
No, so what I just wanted to say is that, again, I have a natural bias because of my personality. My personality is jump in first, ask questions later. I don't jump in blindly, but I'm not afraid to jump. So there are some people that get to the river bank and they just can't get into the water. I will get to the riverbank. I will make sure that at least I can swim and all that. Proof of funds is not such a bad thing in that sense. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. So they say show proof of fund of 50, 60,000 pounds. It's just to show proof of the fund. You need to understand something about the UK. The UK is particularly their immigration system. I just saw someone asking that they've refused you UK visa consistently for 10 years. It makes no difference. Every visa application is different and it is treated differently. Okay? UK has a set of rules. Show proof of fund for 28 days. If you show that proof of fund for 27 days and whatever number of minutes, as long as it is not up to 28 days, you are failed. It is automatic. If they tell you you must have a specific English language criteria to satisfy, if you show something different, you are failed. The rules are basic. The rules are simple. For example, if you want to show that you have funds 50,000, the money needs to be in your account. For my own category of visa, the money does not even need to be in your account. The money can be in a third-party account. Okay? You need to take your time to read the rules. Apart from the fact that you've hired a lawyer who is supposed to do the work for you, I've also realized that Nigerians get lazy and complacent. Oh, I've paid Eitayo the money, then they go and sit back and relax. No. Pay Jayesh, but still know the rules. And if Jayesh tells you A, you should be able to say, but Jayesh, I saw on the website where he said this. Then Jayesh can come back and say, yes, he said that because of this. Which is why you need Jayesh. You get my point. But for you to just think, oh, I'm not going to do anything, there's nothing that is required on your part, trust me, you are in for a rude shock. Because by the end of the day, even if they don't give you the visa, Jayesh gets paid because he has delivered on what he did, especially if the reason for you not getting the visa is due to a mistake on your part. Do you understand? There's a friend of mine that was supposed to get a British passport, and they came back and then gave a very long list of things that she needed to go and get and all that. It's not the lawyer's fault. The lawyer has done his part. He didn't provide all those things and stuff like that. So here's what I'll say. Inflation, cost of living crisis, and things like that. It's expensive to live in the UK. It's not a joke. It's expensive. But expensive compares to what? And that's the basis with which I compare. You have to be able to compare apples with apples, not apples and oranges. I don't like student visa. I'm sorry. I've said it. I'll say it again. First reason why I don't like student visa is the fact that you can only work for 20 hours. If you work for 20 hours it's not enough time you get for you to earn anything that makes perfect sense. Secondly, if you are going to do any type of visa, please, I beg of you, it's best for you to come not as a single person. If you can, come as a couple. Because if you come as a couple, your combined income will do a lot of magic. Just to give you context, the house where I stay currently, rent alone, just rent alone, is £1,500 a month. I quickly do the math. That's like my annual rent when I was in Nigeria, if you know what I mean. But apart from that, you still have to pay electricity bills, you have to pay gas bills, you have to do this bill, you have to do all sorts of things. Food is a bit cheap, but it's getting a bit expensive because of the inflation and stuff like that. But by the end of the day, I can tell you for free that if you have a standard income, two husband and wife working together, and you're both earning £2,000 a month, which is pretty basic, if you know what I mean. It's easy to earn £2,000 a month. If husband and wife are both earning £2,000 a month take home, you'll be fine. And I live in a very expensive area. It's one of the posh areas in Hampshire. You know what I mean?
I'll come to say hello to you.
You're waiting.
Okay. That's a good one. That's a good one. So we have a question here. Just before I move to that, so let me quickly address everybody that is on this set. We are not going to be releasing any recording. If you have a question, you better ask. after this free consultation, Mr. Jayesh is going to ask for money. Now, I'm not his lawyer in Nigeria, right?
I will collect money too now. You didn't mention my own name.
Okay, so Mr. Fadiora is going to collect money. So, guys, you better ask your question now before it's too late. And of course, if you are going to be needing their contact, don't forget, we will try to also share their contact before the end of this conversation. So somebody has here, that's Oyewumi. And please, if your name is, try to check your name so that you are not Oyeleke Olumide. Change your name to your name so that I can also be able to see your name when you send in your question. So Yewumi says, what are the options available to someone who had his visiting visa rejected consecutively for 10 years? Can such a person appeal? And what's the procedure? Thank you. So I think that should go to Jayesh. What do you think about this?
Yeah, no, it's a common issue we've dealt with. And as Mr. Fadiora touched on, it can be overcome. The key thing to look at is why they have refused it. If they've refused it because of deception, i.e. you or your agent in Nigeria or someone, uncle who applied for you, has lied or has deceived the Home Office, they can say that you face a 10-year ban. And to be honest, it's very unlikely you're going to be able to overturn that unless you can show some serious detriment. If you've been refused because of it being prepared shoddily or something wasn't correct or was lacking information, then we can look at that with quite a lot of sort of veracity and sort of deal with it, to be quite honest. I have a lot of clients so the visit visa, just so you know, and everyone on this call knows, is the most refused visa category because the ability for the Home Office to say no is so strong and the ability for you to complain is very weak. So what we do is we look at preparing the most perfect visa application for a visit with all evidence, documentary evidence. And we know, I actually tell the clients that, I know you're paying me for this, but it's quite likely it's going to get refused. But don't worry when it does, because I will then complain to a senior immigration caseworker. And then I will launch a judicial review, which is like a high court challenge, because a lot of it is based on procedural unfairness. Potentially, I've in the past even pled that the Home Office have been purely discriminatory because there's no other evidence as to why they refused it. And we've been successful. So I'm happy to help you with it. If you want to send over the reasons for refusal, then we can look at what our methods of redress would be. Which you just have to think from if you're applying at, for example, Lagos, the immigration caseworker is probably making about 100 visa decisions a day per person. So as soon as they see a reason, they just click no. It's easier for them to say no than it is to say yes. So this is why I advise, and we can explore it with you and then see if we think we'll be successful, then we'll help you. And if not, we won't waste your money, basically.
All
Yeah,
right.
just to add to what Jayesh said, there's this guy, he just paid me about £500,000. I love it when people pay me. He's been refused UK visiting visa 3 times. And every single time he's been refused because of financial status. And the reason is that he's an entrepreneur. Entrepreneur in Nigeria versus entrepreneur in the UK is completely different. In the UK, you are forced to do things like filing your books and stuff like that. In Nigeria, people do anyhow. The guy actually has a shop in the market. He sells electronics and all. Long story short, he sent me the reasons for refusal. I told him, that for us to do your visa application, you pay me £500,000. And it's going to take at least 6 months because we needed 6 months to build a case. We needed to build these finances over the 6 months, pay money from company account to yourself as salary, spend out of that money, leave a few amount of naira left, then next month do something similar. So it's about your story. Like Jaya said, it's easier to say no. Once they click on no, the reasons automatically populate the emails that will go to you to say bye-bye. They don't even need to print, the visa stamp and stuff like that, the vignette and all that. Is easier. But if you've been refused consecutively for 10 years, there's something you are missing, and they will tell you why. That's the reason why I like them. They will tell you why. They don't just say this is why we have refused. If you go to the US embassy, they just give you blue paper. Why? There's no reason. The guy can refuse you for not liking your face. Do you get? But in the UK, they will actually take their time to explain customized reasons for you. So please look at the reasons. Like Jayesh has said, you can hook up with Jayesh. I purposely mentioned my price. Jayesh may be cheaper, so that people don't come and be telling me. Jayesh won't mention his price because he's a professional. Me, I can't.
And he's a partner in a law firm too, not just a law firm.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Jayesh is a partner. I'm not.
Okay, so there are other questions here. I'm only hoping that time is going to permit us to address all of this. But I see the next question goes to you, Mr. Fadiora. Is it possible to sort out accommodation issues in your home country before arrival to the UK? What do you guys think?
Okay, so I'll answer that one and the question on, are there areas in the UK where rent is a bit cheaper?
That's fine.
The house I live in, the price I told you, I was going to move into a similar house in Manchester. It was going to cost me £850. So if you move up north, cost of living, housing, and all those things are cheaper. But don't be deceived. It's becoming higher because more people are coming in. Demand is fast outgrowing supply. So trust me, the prices are increasing. But truth be told, up north is cheaper. But here's the problem. The juicy and the jobs that make sense are down south. Jayesh is down south. You get? If you tell Jayesh to go up north, he's going to say no. Because down south, London, that's where it's all happening. So you also want to have a balance. Do you understand? There's a friend of mine, he works in London and lives in Manchester. He's earning London salary and paying Manchester bills. Is balling. Do you understand? It makes sense. Now, to the question, can you sort out accommodation issue before arrival to the UK? It is possible. Very, very possible. You need to be ready to pay for up to 3-6 months rent in advance. You need to have somebody in the UK that would help you do all the inspection. Part of the problems, just to give you guys context, a friend of mine got a house from Nigeria. Very lovely apartment in Manchester. It's Akin I'm talking about. He got a house from Nigeria. He got the daughter school from Nigeria. He got to the UK, stepped into his house. The next week, the daughter resumed in school. Everything done from Nigeria. So I know somebody that has done it directly. For others, it's a bit difficult. Again, all these things boils down to planning. If you plan properly, then it's possible to get it done. If you don't plan, it's almost impossible. If you know what I mean. Almost impossible. But it's something that is doable. It's something that you can achieve. There's no big deal to it. Other issue, I think, has to do with choices. Sorry, I wanted to say this. Has to do with choices. I've seen houses in the UK where you pass through the kitchen to get to the toilet. You would never find that in Nigeria. I mean, you want to take a shower, you're coming from your room upstairs, you come downstairs, pass the living room, go to the kitchen, and then go to the toilet and bathroom. Some people say, no, I don't want it. Trust me, when you get here, you know how fashion.
You make conversations interesting. Thank you very much. Okay, so let me quickly jump to Mr. Jayesh. Someone is asking here, that's Daniel Mobolaji. Mondialdo, I'll come back to your question. So Daniel Mobolaji is saying, what kind of visa can a family of 4 apply for? And is it possible? Okay, the issue of housing has been sorted. So Mr. Jayesh, what do you think? A family of 4 thinking
yeah, definitely. It's quite common, that a family of 4 would apply. Normally, the main applicant, their dependent, i.e. their spouse, and any children under the age of 18. I think that's important for sort of everyone to be aware of, is in the UK, once you're sort of beyond the age of 18, you can't apply as a dependent. So if your children are coming to that age, and you want them to be under the same visa as you, that's worth considering. Your visa options are open, Danielle. I would say that it depends on what you want to do. So if you're more business orientated and have been successful in business in Nigeria or have a good idea, consider whether that could be something you could launch in the UK. The startup may not be here in a few months, but the startup does give you the ability to run your own business and work for any company, so that you could be flexible, you can earn an income, as well as sort of focusing on your dreams and aspirations. Your children, as Mr. Fadiora, can be schooled quite quickly just by way of Google. So integration is not that difficult. Or you could look to work for a company, which means that you're paid a fixed salary. You get a certain amount of leave to travel whenever you wish to across the year. And in terms of that, you get a fixed income every month. And how you go about both those options is, if you have an idea in place, obviously speak to Mr. Fadiora or myself or Mr. Okunyemi. We can look at whether it's innovative enough, or if you have aspirations to work in the UK, look at job offers and look to apply. I think LinkedIn is probably your best friend. And your children who are aged 3 and 5 would go straight into, potentially what we call primary school, and that would be basically your options. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
All right. Thank you for that response. I hope that helps the person that asked the question. So quickly, Mr. Fadiora, somebody has asked there, kindly elaborate on the point made earlier about being better to come alone first. If we can have that briefly. I see we still have some questions here, but guys, we are going to drop the phone contact, the contact details of Mr. Fadiora and Mr. Jayesh. So just stick around, just in case we're unable to address all your questions, but we cannot guarantee that it will come for free at that point. But whichever way, I think it's important to keep the contact. So Mr. Fadiora, over to you. You are muted.
I just realized. The long story short of that statement is easier in terms of planning, coordination, and logistics. So let me give you an example. If you are coming as a student, January resumption, we are in October. The way the UK system works, it punishes you when you don't plan ahead. As at September, I started getting flyers telling me that come and set up your Christmas party in September. So they expect you to plan 3 months ahead for a Christmas party for your office. And the interesting thing is, a lot of times they don't expect you, even if you are going to spend £10,000 for the party, they probably would expect a non-refundable deposit of maybe £100 or £200. You get. So the UK expects you to plan ahead. So when I say it's easier for you to come alone than to come with your dependents immediately, is basically planning wise. So let's look at it. For example, my house to University of Surrey is about 15-20 minutes. If you have gotten admission in University of Surrey and you know me, Monday Audu knows me personally anyway. So let's assume Monday has gotten admission in University of Surrey and he wants to come to the UK. It's easier for me to discuss with my spouse and say, oh, there's this my guy, blah, 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 blah. He just wants to stay with us for 2 weeks until he sorts out his accommodation. It's easy to vacate one room for him. Do you understand? I stay in a 3-bed apartment, but it's easy to tell one of my kids to leave his room, join his brother, and then he would, of course, accommodate you. Now, if he comes in, he can easily get accommodation where I am up until University of Surrey. Do you understand? By the time you get that accommodation, when your wife and kids want to come in, they are coming straight into a house that has already been prepared. Do you understand? So they are not coming in, and for a friend of mine, for like 3-4 days, he couldn't get his boiler to work. When I moved into this house, I couldn't sleep here for 2 days because my boiler just wasn't working. I tried everything. I mean, before I would call for help, I've tried stuff. So I'm just saying that it's easier for you to do that. Now, remember, I also said you can sort out accommodation before you leave. So if you are coming to University of Surrey and you say, oh, Sean, can you help me check an apartment in Wokingham? Or can you help me check different places that it's just maybe about 20 minutes from me? It's easy for me to go do those inspections for you. But if you are in Essex and you say, oh, Sean, can you help me go check this property in Essex? I will tell you, yes, I will go. But I will not. If I try, I will do one. If I go do one and you're telling me I don't like the way that the tiles in the house look, yeah, I'm not going to waste my time. So it's better for you to come alone, do the hard work of viewing properties and then making the decision to come. If you know, I got an apartment in Manchester while living in Cardiff because my friend was helping me look for apartments in Manchester. I eventually didn't stay there because I had to move down south, like I said. But the truth of the matter is, it's not a very easy task for you to carry. So Monday can call me now and says he's coming with his wife and 3 children. Can he stay in my house for a week? Answer is no. First, my wife does not know you one-on-one. I have to go and convince the missus. Nah, I won't waste my time.
All right, thank you for that. Okay, so there you have it, Mr. Monday. Okay, so this question goes to Mr. Jayesh from Noyen Nielsen. She says, good evening. I'm 30 years old, a single mother. My daughter is a year old, and I want to relocate to the United Kingdom with my daughter and my baby sister of 21 years old through skilled workers visa. Is it possible?
Definitely possible. But you would need to be, your 21-year-old sister will need to apply for her own visa, i.e. she'll need to have a job of her own offered to her because she will not be classed as a dependent, as opposed to the 1-year-old daughter who could just simply apply with the mother. But yeah, nothing's stopping you. I think the 3 steps that I would take if I was you would be to assess what you do in your current role, what job opportunities there are in the UK, and then to simply apply for those jobs. And then you'll face the difficulty of getting through interviews, and sometimes even I've seen on like applications they'll ask, do you have any restrictions on your ability to work in the UK? And they're trying to sift out whether you need a visa. But if you can get into contact with people like head of HRs and so on to explain that actually, look, I'm very good prospects, and I can obviously, my firm and law firm can help you to secure the license, and for the company and for yourself. But it's quite. I think at the moment the economic climate is a little bit dependent on what your role is. So skilled worker visa is great if you can get the job offer. You're plain sailing by that point, basically.
All right, thank you for that, Mr. Jayesh. I want us to begin to wrap up today's conversation. I believe that listeners, you've gotten value for your time, and we need to also again say thank you to our speakers. But before we let them go, so let's I see there are still a number of questions. So my colleague is going to drop the contact details of Mr. Fadiora and Mr. Jayesh so that you can, feel free to reach out. Okay.
Is it possible, sorry to interrupt, is it possible for me to just try to run through some of the questions?
Yes, I was coming to that as well. But yes, you can pick them up.
Okay, so let me just answer. One question is saying, Mr. Fadiora talked about 15K rent per month. Is this applicable to all types of apartments, or the sizes determine the amount payable? There's a website called rightmove.co.uk. There's a website called Zoopla. So search for Zoopla, search for Rightmove. As you decide you want to do your destiny, so you will see your destiny in the UK. You will find all types of houses. I live in a house. I don't live in a flat. A flat will be cheaper. I can guarantee you that I stay in a 3-bedroom house. Jayesh probably stays in one of the high rises in London, and he'll be laughing when he hears my rent that, oh, come on, that's so cheap, if you know what I mean. So choose your destiny, kill yourself the way you want to kill yourself. You can get apartments for as low as 300, you can get apartments for as high as 3,000. Do you get for exactly the same place? So it also depends on the area where you stay. For a student visa, can I use my brother's account to show my proof of funds? You cannot use your brother's account to show proof of funds. The only account you can use is your spouse or that of your parents, if your parents are the ones sponsoring you. If your brother wants to do proof of funds for you, let him trust you enough to move money to you. And please don't spend his money, because people have spent their siblings' money that siblings have the vex. I just got my credit card. I noticed that I pay higher when I'm to pay back, blah, 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 additional charges. The first thing they told me when I got my credit card, because I spoke with guys who had been in the UK and all that, there's something called credit card utilization rates. Never ever go beyond 60, maybe 70% utilization rate. It is not advisable. All those information will be picked up. So what do? If you have a £200 card, spend £100. The minute you spend 100, in fact, the way I would suggest you do it is use your credit card to pay. 2 days later, pay it off. Use your credit card to pay. 2 days later, pay it off. So they'll see that you are really running your account and all that. Be smart about it. Don't wait until they charge you. So they don't charge you any interest if you pay before 30 days. Do you understand? Don't wait until the end of the period. So if you spend £100 on your credit card today, in 2 days' time, those transactions will settle. When those transactions settle in 2 days' time, make payments with your Monzo card. Once you've made that payment, in 2 days' time, the money will reflect in your account. So it's basically a 4-day cycle for any credit whatsoever that you take. So just, pay cognizance to that. Proof of fund that you can use a third party's account. Can we also use it? No, proof of fund for Innovator Visa is different from student visa. Innovator Visa, my proof of fund for living expenses is just for 1 month. For students, it's for 9 months. We are not mates, so please respect yourself. That's on a lighter note. Yeah, they've answered the single mom. As a couple, how much are we talking about here to secure the visa in the UK? It depends on the route you are taking. But I don't think any UK visa permanent that leads to you being able to live here longer than 6 months. I don't think you spend less than £20,000 for any one of them as a couple. That's what I think. You are coming. Yes, we are hoping to see you. Who's calling me? I told somebody to call me at 6:30. Yeah, basically, I think that's it.
Okay, thank you once again. So under 5 minutes, I want us to allow our speakers to have their final thoughts around today's conversation and their final suggestions to you. Now, while that is going on, you would have their contact details in the comment box, so you can check for. My colleague is going to drop their contact details. So yeah, feel free to reach out. Just mention, introduce yourself, that you want to say something.
Yeah, so somebody said you people didn't treat my question. That's Adeleke Otulano. How easy or difficult is it for you to set up a medium-sized grocery retail store for your dependents when you arrive in the UK newly? Do you have to wait for a particular period? If you get into the UK today, you can set up a company today. There's no waiting period. There's no, for the dependents, because the dependents really don't have a lot of restrictions on their visas. It's the main applicant that has restriction. My visa does not allow me to work. Jayesh was saying they want to make some changes. They haven't made it, so I can't work. I can only do my own business. So how easy or difficult? It's not easy now. If you have money, you need to pay for space. You need to then get the groceries that you want to sell. If you have a Costco card, you can buy a lot of things from Costco in bulk. You put it in your shop. If you are thinking of Naija food stuff, where would you get the Naija food stuff from? Again, is slightly different from Nigeria, where you can just tie ewedu or tie egusi in a nylon bag. In the UK, they will need you to properly label it so that they can see what is the content inside. If somebody suffers from food poisoning or allergy, they need to be able to trace which particular batch and stuff like that. So you can set it up immediately. How much it will cost you? is your cash. I would say give or take maybe another 10,000-15,000 pounds for you to do that. I hope we have treated your question now. Adeleke Otulano, thank you.
Okay, all right. Thank you, guys. So my colleague is going to drop the contact. So feel free to reach out. I believe that you would have some concessions, especially once you're able to mention to them as well that you were a part of this immigration law in the UK meeting. Yeah, just mentioned from the conversation we had here. So final thoughts, Mr. Jayesh. Let's have you.
Yeah, no, thank you for inviting me, Mr. Ogunyemi. It's been a pleasure to speak with you all. Good to see Mr. Fadiora shining bright in Farnborough. And in terms of all of you, look, I think if you're friends of Mr. Ogunyemi or Mr. Fadiora, I'm happy to have an initial conversation with you to sort of understand what you want, because I think everyone in this group has individual circumstances, and my sort of objective is to see how I can tailor your situation. So a lot of what Mr. Fadiora was mentioning was good advice. Not everyone's going to fit into the same box, as he said, but really prudent advice that he mentioned. But your situation is very different to your friends. So if you have anything that you need from me, my details are below. And feel free to have a look at our website. There's quite a few articles on there at the moment about things like innovative visa and so on. And yeah, look forward to speaking to you. Reach out and I'll get back to you. Thank you.
All right, thank you once again. So it's also important, you know, when you meet people and you're able to mention one or two things about them. So I took note of what Mr. Fadiora said earlier, that Jayesh handled his brief to migrate to the United Kingdom. And yes, I must mention as well that there are still works in the pipeline that myself and Jayesh are also working on. And yes, it comes well recommended as well. So thank you for gracing this conversation, Mr. Jayesh. So Mr. Seun Fadiora, can we have your parting notes for the listeners today?
Okay, I thought I'd muted myself. What can I say? I've lived in Nigeria. I've lived in the UK for about 18 months. I'm still a JJC in the UK. Which do I prefer? I think I'll just take the answer my son gave a friend of mine. So a friend of mine called me and he was asking my son, so are you enjoying your school in the UK? Which one do you prefer, UK or Nigeria? My son said, I prefer the UK. And my friend said, why? And he said, and this is quite revealing. My son is just 8 years old. And he said, the garbage trucks in the UK don't smell. Think about that. Garbage truck in the UK doesn't smell. That's what a child can see. You get. It tells you the basic stuff that the kids are even experiencing. And I think it's a completely different world. And I think they call me Japa Minister in so many different places and stuff like that. For a very long time, I stopped, discussing Japa things. This is probably my first session in maybe 4 months because I just stopped. I felt I was becoming a nuisance to people.
And you also stopped talking about Naira.
Yeah, I just stopped. In all honesty, it was pointless. You get. But what I'll say to everybody is this, and this is my final parting words. I'll go back to that poem from primary school. Tick says the clock, tick, tick. What you have to do, do quick. Don't waste time. Do you understand? When I started my journey in 2020, pounds to Naira exchange rate at the time was 500. Today, it is 840, 850. Just think about that in the space of 2 years. Do you understand? The longer you wait, if you want to do it, or if you don't want to do it, stay in your Nigeria, be enjoying yourself, eating your amala. Of course, I eat amala here anyway, But my point is, if you want to do it, don't waste time. call Jayesh. Jayesh's number is there. You can call him immediately. He would attend to you. But me, I won't give you my number. I will leave that link will take you to my Telegram to chat me directly. Jayesh is a big man. Me, I'm still coming up, so I don't give out my numbers. So thank you, everybody. It's been nice having this. I mean, this feels good. I've not done this in a very long time, really.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. And we are hoping to have a Kenya conversation as well. So I hope you guys are up for it. We are going to the next edition is going to be with our audience all the way from Kenya. So it's a privilege. So guys, just before you exit, can you say once again, just do a thank you. You can unmute, right? Just do a thank you to our speakers today. They've done this without, saying you have to pay for something. So just get to the comment box. You can thank them, or you can simply unmute. Or let's do this together, right?
My
So
question.
let's clap for them, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. God bless
Thank
you.
you.
I just posted something on the group. Somebody actually sent me a direct message, and that's the message I just posted on the group. The person said she listened to me in January. She's here in the UK now, and that the husband now works in Standard Chartered Bank in the UK.
Wow.
Opportunities there, here, guys. No, they done yourself for Nigeria. Big global.
We just revived the Apostle Japa.
You know now.
And Jayesh is the silent man also doing all this work. So yeah, it's great. Thank you guys.
Thank you very
Thank you, guys. This is
And-
great. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you for the session.
The weekend. Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you, Barrister Itaro.
Yeah, you're welcome.